Hello, Blitz fans of all ages. It's me, PlumCastle, here with a review on the AMX 1390. This is a tank that I both love to run and sometimes hate to run, and I will explain why in today's video. So with that, let's roll the epic intro. So like I was saying, the AMX 1390 can be a very interesting tank to drive, to say the least. You can see already it boasts a 3-shell autoloader, and that autoloader is a 90mm. In fact, it actually says that right in the name of the tank. It's the AMX 1390 because of the 90mm gun it carries. Now, if I was to describe the tank with like a short sentence, I would say it's an annoying flanker because it's, one, really good at flanking, and once you're done with that flank, if it was successful, it can be so annoying to the enemy Reds because you can just absolutely wreck them from behind. Now, you can see here, the enemy Reds only had one tank on the flank, which is a bit unfortunate. You can see here, I'm not dumbly rushing in. I am trying to make sure that my team is ready there in case I do get a little bit overwhelmed, as this is a higher tier vehicle. So that is one thing. You do want to make sure that your team is nearby to assist you, because it can go horribly wrong when you don't. Now let's talk about the stats real quick as we clear this tank out. So for hit points, it's got 1,250. That's not running any equipment or anything. I mean, I do run equipment, just not the HP buff. Now, damage per minute for me is sitting at just under 2,000 because I use gun rammer. Probably a better idea to use calibrated shells, but I was just trying out different things. Magazine reload time, because I have the rammer, is 15.32, which is a little bit long sometimes, but it's doable for the most part. The interclip, or i.e. the time it takes to fire a shell after shooting one shell, is 2.5 seconds, so that means you're going to have to sit out there for about 5 seconds to get your shots out, which can be a little bit of a long time, especially with how weak this tank can be. Now, let's talk about the playstyle. You can see here I've flanked, as I said, and now I'm actually really annoying the enemies back here, along with the teammates who did also flank. Now, there are two situations you can have here, or I suppose three. You've got one here, like we do, where more than just me flank, and that means they're going to have a lot of trouble from both sides. And the second one is probably the most common. When you flank alone and you're super successful, especially if it's a ton of heavies side scraping in town, they're not getting a whole lot of shots. I mean, sure, they're maybe getting a few in, but for the most part, if they're side scraping correctly, they're going to be bouncing a lot of shots, so it's going to be very boring. As soon as little AMX comes around the corner and starts farming their backs, they're then going to realize, oh, there's a target here, let's go ahead and turn around and take him out, and naturally they do so. But what that means is now all attention gets focused on you, which, by the way, can be a bad thing if you don't know what you're doing. You can get absolutely pulverized in this tank. But what it can mean is that it gives your team a chance to then push on them, because as soon as their attention is diverted and they're focused on you and they've literally turned around, the 6 tanks that they're now suddenly ignoring them are about to absolutely pulverize them. Those are the games where you probably aren't getting the highest amount of damage, but are still doing pretty well. The third thing that can happen is you can the enemy don't focus on you, if that makes sense. Like you flank and you do the exact same thing, but the enemy just decides that no, the people we're side scraping against are going to be our targets, and that's actually not a terribly bad thing for you, because that means you can then go and absolutely farm damage. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. It's probably one of the least likely things to happen, but when it happens, it can be pretty fun. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the penetration, because that's a little bit iffy. The penetration for AP rounds is 170, which isn't terrific. It's not absolutely terrible, but it would be nice to have it a little bit higher. The APCR rounds are 248 millimeters, which is much better and can penetrate most tanks. It does struggle a little bit against some really big heavy tanks, especially higher tier frontally. Now let's talk about the damage. The AP rounds are 225 and the APCR rounds are 190, and if you somehow manage to penetrate the high explosive with your whopping 45 millimeters of penetration, you will get about 270. Now, like I said, it's a 90 millimeter gun, so the penetration is expected to be bad as well. The alpha damage isn't expected to be all super great, but it's doable. Now let's talk about the weight, because that can actually be a big problem for some players, because you're just shy of about 15 tons, which means, one, if you've got a really annoying team, they can easily push you around and kind of throw you off, which can be really annoying when you do get those kinds of teams. But that also means that if anything rams you, it doesn't even have to be a heavy tank. I bet you if that RU-251 was to ram me, it would still take out a huge chunk of my HP, just because of how light this tank is. It's just super fragile, and you do have to be careful. Now, like I said, it's only got 1,250 hit points, so any kind of loss of hit points is going to be pretty painful. Now, with the lighter weight means higher top speeds, which most definitely this thing has. It's a very fast, very whippy tank. It's very fun to drive. But also on the flip side, that means you have next to no armor. I would guarantee that just about any tank that has HE can HE you somewhere, even if it's only on the back. And i.e. pretty much everything you're going to be going against is going to be able to HE you regardless. Now, if it's a player that doesn't know what their HE means, then you're golden, but still best not to try your luck there. Now, I'm of course not the best player ever, but I do have I've definitely gotten better, and when I first got this tank, I was absolutely terrible. I think I got this after only having like 1,000 battles of experience, which, by the way, is not a whole lot of experience. I quickly learned that, and my stats in the tank are still not terrific. But after about a year and a half of learning, I have found that it's a very nice and very fun tank to drive. Now, it's very much a support tank. You want to support your team, and as well, you want to be able to let your team support you. You never want to get caught on your own, because as soon as you do, you are absolutely going to get targeted. All HE shells are going to be grinding right through your armor, and you're just going to get absolutely pulverized. I have had those games before, and I still get them occasionally. But also, on the flip side, you don't want to leave your team alone, because if you're not supporting them, well, you're basically just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, which means you might as well only have 6 players on your team. So it's a 50-50 thing here. Now, it's definitely a high skill vehicle, so definitely want some experience, especially higher tier experience, and really you do want to know your light tanks very well. It's not the best tank for grinding stats. I mean, if you are a good player, you can get some pretty good stats. In fact, I think I had purple win 8 in this for a little bit. But one, it's hard. You really need to know what you're doing. And two, that's not really what the tank is for. It's more of a support tank, and I would honestly say that the tank is just a fun tank to drive. I just pull it out because I want to enjoy something, maybe have fun with a friend, flank for the fun of it, sometimes die, sure, but I mean, if you succeed in that flank, getting around and just farming the damage, it's so much joy. And it kind of makes you feel a little dirty. I mean, you go around and all of a sudden you're just absolutely annoying the life out of these enemy reds. And all you can do is sit there laughing and chuckling to yourself like, yeah, I did that. It's just a fun tank that you can get some good stats on, but it's more for the pure joy. And that's pretty much it for the AMX. Also, I want to thank you guys. We are almost at 100 subscribers. Big thank you to you. And also, I want to give a few special thank yous to USA is One, Tater Toaster, That Guy 121, and NSR Soldier for helping out with that intro that you saw earlier. So with that, I hope y'all enjoyed, and as always, have fun, good luck, and happy tanking.